Yeah, I'm just touching it.
That's fine. That's, yeah.
We'd like to welcome everyone out to our school board meeting this evening. Our agendas are posted on both sides of the room. We would like to start our meeting this evening with a presentation from our Bonneville High School. And would you like me to introduce Leah Merrill will be presenting some music for us this evening. This is going to be wonderful, so sit back and get ready. When she's finished, she will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, so Bonneville High's next upcoming musical is Mary Poppins, and this is Jane Michael Bates, and we will be performing Practically Perfect. Just as I thought, noisy, mischievous, troublesome little boy. Come make that up. A noisy, mischievous.
Rehearsal tracks.
I'll show you I can. No matter what the circumstance, for one thing I'm renowned. My character is spick and span. But that's more than Mary Poppins. Practically perfect in every way. Practically perfect, so people say.
Rehearsal tracks.
Each classroom mentally knows no bounds. Each trait is great and constantly sound. Practically perfect from head to toe. If I had a fault, it would never dare to show. I'm so practically perfect in every way. Open and proper and never to stone. Well-educated yet little to learn. I'm
Rehearsal tracks.
my mind fine, and I wear shoes of the sensible kind. Suffer no nonsense in a more styling way. There's nothing else I feel I need to say. Practically perfect in every way. Practically perfect, that's my forte. Uncanny valleys are hard to find. Unique and unspeakably kind. Practically perfect, not slightly so.
Rehearsal tracks.
He had a dashing, that's just freshly born. I'm so practically perfect. But those are my credentials. Perhaps you have a few more questions. Very hot. You say tender when the feeling gets rough. Quite the contrary. Sorry with everything fun. Objections to rain. No, I like being untyped, but I choose.
Rehearsal tracks.
Some minor improvements may not go amiss, but at all times you must remember this. Practically perfect in every way. I guarantee perfect. We hope you'll stay like me. Each passion totally was not. Each trait is great and plenty sound. At times we sound. It's what's
Rehearsal tracks. Rehearsal tracks.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before you sit down, could you introduce your two singing companions?
So this is Tommy Richard. Can you join us how old you are? I'm Richard. I am 9 years old and I'm in 4th grade. He goes to Riverdale Elementary. You want to introduce yourself? I'm Cheryl Boyce. I play Jane Banks. And I'm 12 years old and in 6th grade at Shelby. Yeah, Jane and Michael Davis.
Thank you so very much. Another round of applause. Yes, thank you very much. So the first item on the calendar is our consent calendar. On the agenda, excuse me, is our consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Recognitions. Time to turn the time over to Art Hansen for our first recognition.
All right. Board of Superintendents, it's my privilege to introduce the recipient of the I Love Teaching Award. We're really excited. I'd like to bring up Niels Hansen. All right, Niels better now. All right, Niels, thank you. I had a chance to I've had a chance to meet with Niels many times, but I had a chance just about a week ago to go and visit one of his orchestra classes. It was a first year orchestra, beginning orchestra class, made mostly of 7th graders, a few scattered 8th and 9th graders in there, but it didn't take long to see exactly why Niels's principal, Michelle Perry, nominated him for this prestigious award. The kids just eat right out of his hands. Everything he says, everything he asks them to do, they're spot on and they're so attentive to him. And Niels has been teaching band and orchestra for the past 11 years at South Ogden Junior High School. And I'd like to just read a few comments. I've got a couple nice letters for you here today, Niels, and I'll just read a couple parts of each of those. This one's from his principal, Michelle Perry. It says, when I think about the best teachers in the district, Niels Hansen is one name that always comes to mind. It isn't just his methods or content knowledge, it's the passion with which he teaches and the magic that happens in his classroom. And another part here, she says, the most impressive part of what Niels does is allowing his students to grow in remarkable ways. I have known Niels for the past 5 years and have seen him take students who were discouraged and broken by life's circumstances. Many of these students can't even afford their own instrument, but Mr. Hansen finds a way to take care of each of them, providing whatever they need. He instills confidence and pride in them as he develops their talents in music. I've seen many of his students completely change, become better students in other subject areas, and even leaders in school, because he believed in them and gave them a chance to find their niche. Also, Carrie Meyerhopper, who worked closely with Niels, she just brought me a letter when she heard that he had been chosen for this award. And I'll read a few comments by Carrie as well. Nils is a loving, caring person. In between classes, he is always standing outside of his classroom, meeting, greeting, and helping students along their way. And he's right there by the 7th grade hall. And 7th graders coming to a junior high, how nervous they are. There are many days you will find Nils out helping a student get their locker open. Nils is also one of the first teachers to raise his hand and volunteer for anything, whether it be a standards committee, PLC committee, or any other type of committee. He's your man. Now, I interrupted Nils's class, and I let him know that he was going to receive this award, and I said, would you mind sharing anything you want to share? You don't have to, but they all raised their hand, and so during his class, they came up one by one and wrote some really neat notes. And if we can go to that next slide, Trent. Here are a few comments that I put on here for you. Good picture. I don't know where I got that one. He has helped me express my feelings through music. He helps me with my problems in music, and he makes time for you. He has a cheery attitude every day and helps us by giving advice and comments. He is one of the only teachers with a sense of humor. He helped me do something I didn't know I could do. I was like clay, and he shaped me to be a violin. This is pretty deep. I mean, they came out right out of the gate and just started writing.
That's pretty good for turning it into a violin.
He really has taught me a lot, and I appreciate him and everything he does at this school. When I didn't know how to play after our trip, you helped me a bunch. You are my favorite teacher. You are an amazing teacher that helped me when I need it. You are awesome. You are a very nice teacher, and you make everyone feel involved. And it's just neat to see, and I felt it when I was in your classroom how much they respect you. And people grabbing me in the hall. Dan Barney, he said, "Oh man, he's the man. He's the right guy for this." And it looks like you brought a great crowd tonight. And so I'll let you make a few comments, but let me give you your award. You'll just introduce your family. Here you go.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I guess I get to embarrass my family and bring them up really quick. But while they're walking up, I want to thank the board and thank the school district, and especially thank Michelle Perry and the faculty at South Ogden Junior High School. I have a wonderful job. I do love teaching. And they make it easy for me over at South. Well, this is my family. So this is my wife, Tara. I told her that she wouldn't have to do anything tonight. She's probably not very happy that I brought her up. And this is my oldest son, Gage. He is in 3rd grade. And then we have twins who are hiding kind of behind mom over here. Carter and Jenna, you want to wave to everybody? And they're 4 years old. And of course, they're very patient with me and with all of my commitments at school. So I want to acknowledge my family. Okay.
Now for the I Love Teaching Award, we'll turn the time, for the Extra Mile Award, wrong place on the agenda here. We turn the time over to Bill Grills.
Thanks. Jill, would you come up? It's a pleasure for me, Superintendent Board, to introduce you to Jill Lefevre, and she'll be receiving the Extra Mile Award tonight. So there's a wonderful picture of Jill. That's how you find her every day at the school. My history with Jill goes way back to the mid-'80s to mid-'90s. She was a coach at T.H. Bell, and she was a very fierce competitor. And believe it or not, that was when Bell was winning a lot of championships. And we had a lot of great kids. 2 of them were hers. That really helped us. But her and Carol Dudman just did a wonderful job. They were fundamentally sound. Their kids were in every game. And it's a credit to your coaching, Jill. So congrats. And when I went and visited with Jill and asked her what she loved most about her job, she said, I think I have a cold. I'm not going to show up to the meeting because I don't like these things. But she did say that she loves kids. She loves the teachers, the parents, and the staffs. She loves what she does every single day. She is busy all day long and loves that. She loves all the great traditions of South Ogden Junior High, and she loves the administration. So Rich and Michelle, great job. While we were visiting, and as I read some of these quotes later, a student came in and we were talking and she stopped and she said, Taylor, you did a great job in the talent show last night. I know you suffer with anxiety, but you sang great and you were looking at the crowd and Taylor just got happy and Taylor walked out and another kid walked in holding his jaw and I don't remember his name. She goes, so-and-so, your jaw's still hurt. Let me get you some ice. And she ran and got some ice and she knows every kid by name. So. Ms. Michelle Perry writes this, the dedication of a few staff members can make all the difference to the culture and feel of a school. And the smallest gestures can have a huge impact on a positive learning environment. Jill Lefevre has the ability to make each person she talks to feel like the most important person in the building. She greets every student, teacher, parent, or staff member with a warm smile and a genuine concern. Jill is not only dedicated to making things run smoothly and efficiently, she wants people to have a great experience herself, whether they're there for 5 minutes or for many years. So, and I had a bunch of these, and I can't read them all, Jill, but I'm going to read some more. Carrie Meyerhofer, who she worked with for about 15 years, says, Jill is always more than willing to help with anything that is placed before her. We called her Janitor Jill. When it comes to helping with students jam lockers, she was a pro at getting those things open. The students from the school always walked into the office to a smiling, happy face. The students know that Jill will help them whether they are hurt, sick, paying fees, or just need a listening ears. She is there and makes them feel loved. It is not only a feeling, though, she truly does love every one of the students she encounters. Now, Miss Kennedy, Miss Judd, and Miss Denoyer, I had to put theirs together. Generous, passionate, supportive, and honest are the words associated with a valued staff member at South Ogden Junior High, Jill Lefevre. When you walk into the office, she is always smiling and willing to help. Jill takes the initiative to identify problems and devise solutions. Her roles require strong communication skills, and she has shown that she not only has these skills, but she also has the ability to inspire respect and collaboration with colleagues. As being a hard worker, she is willing to put in the time that it takes to master or complete a task. Jill is very conscientious and strives for perfection. If we want something done right and on time, we can always depend on Jill. And then Mr. Barney writes, I'm happy to share some thoughts on Jill Lefevre. Jill is one of the most positive and cheerful people I have ever known. I've never seen her utter anything adverse about any person. I have never heard anyone say anything negative about Jill. She is loyal to everyone. She is concerned about others and always puts their needs and feelings before those of herself. Jill is able to make others feel welcome and wanted. She goes out of her way to make sure everyone feels included and appreciated. She is trustworthy and is well liked by the students and staff of South Ogden Junior High. She is honest with others, and her attitude of continual happiness is cherished by those who work with her and know her best. She is a shining star for thousands of students that have had the opportunity to be influenced by her. I am fortunate to call her my friend. So, now we have two other students that would like to come and talk to Jill as well. So if Joshua and Aussie could come up, that would be great. Yes, sir.
Before we get started with this, I must say, Jill, you're awesome. Along with you, Mr. Hanson, music has blessed my life. I play the piano, and I'd just like to thank you for all you do too. My name is Joshua Tofnai. I am a student body officer at South Ogden Junior High, and I think that the whole student body can all agree that Jill has brought so many smiles to our school. She's not only a secretary, but she's a friend to all the Spartans. Jill makes South such a special school because she does her best to get to know everyone as an individual. She always has a smile on her face and has time to ask you how your day has been, even if she has so much to do. So Spartans are known for being great warriors in Greece. They were commonly referred to as a wall of brothers instead of bricks. But as we all know, walls need repairing from time to time. And who would always be there to fix those patches? The strong Spartan women of the group. Spartan women had a reputation for controlling their husbands. However, our knowledge of the lives of women in Sparta is limited to few written documents. And I believe that we can compare great women such as Jill to those of the world of ancient Greece. She goes through and patches up the schools in places where it might not be obvious and makes it strong again. And we all know that a bunch of teenagers are not the easiest to deal with at times, actually all the time. But as the Spartan women can control the Greek warriors, Jill somehow manages to control the raging student body. We may not know exactly what Spartan women were like, but we will never know how much Jill has done for both South Ogden Junior High and the Weber School District. On behalf of the student body of South Ogden Junior High, I'd like to thank you, Jill, for all you do.
Oh, thank you. Okay, congratulations to you too, Mr. Hanson. That is so cool, and you deserve it. Okay, so one thing about Jill, she will always make an effort to get to know everyone and things about them over itself. I personally remember being a 7th grader, and I was scared to be the youngest at a school once again because it's kind of hard to go from the very top to the very bottom. And Jill always made an effort to make not only me, but all of the 7th graders feel welcome. And I'm so grateful for you. And she did 2 years ago, and she still does to this day. And she always will and always has. But her care for students isn't limited just to the 7th graders. She cares for the whole student body. And I think that's pretty special. Each and every one of those relationships is based on what that particular kid needs. And she always cares to ask what is going on in their lives, and if it's something that she can help with, she always will. She's just great. Personally, I have been part of South Ogden Junior High student government all 3 years I've been there, and I knew her before I got to South. So even though I've had more interaction with her, she still didn't treat me more special than some of the other kids, because in her eyes, everyone is special, and that's the way it should be. Me and the other student body officers, we do daily announcements, and sometimes we have to call people down to the office for various reasons. And let me just say, sometimes the names are a little bit crazy. And all 4 of the student body officers, and sometimes our advisors, who are great as well, we find out we're just butchering it. So we're like, okay, what do we do? So we go to Jill, and I kid you not, every time without fail, she can tell you exactly how to pronounce their name, and she can tell you who they are. She's amazing. Jill is such a great person. She does so much for her school and every person associated with it. She always has a big smile and a happy, good attitude. And she can always turn your day around if you're having a bad one. And she's always there for you, and I know that, and everybody else at South does too. She's one of the many reasons why I'm proud to be a Spartan. And I don't think that there is anyone who is more deserving of the Extra Mile Award than Jill is. Congratulations, you're the best. And on behalf of the student body, these are for you. You're welcome.
Now, board, on a side note, I've had an opportunity to golf with Jill, and I'm just going to tell you, Brent, maybe not you, but Dean, Doug, Rich, she can outshine you. She hits the ball along. That number 1 at El Monte, over the tree every stinking time. That's a pretty good putt. Well, it's when you're a little younger, yeah. So, Jill's maiden name was Champion, and Jill, we want to thank you for being a champion to all the kids that's in the Weaver School District and in South Argentina. So, board, Jill Lefevre, extra round word winner, and we place and take some time to introduce all your family members.
First of all, I just want to thank everybody for those such kind words. I don't know if it truly as often as it's ever been said, but well, I sure love these guys. They make my life. I love my job. I love my job so much. How fortunate am I to be able to get up every day and go do something that I love and look forward to it. I truly love my job. I love my administrator. Michelle Perry is awesome, even though she just is the best. And Mr. Murray, what a great team. I mean, Rich makes me laugh. He's just done a super job at our school, and with the both of them, I don't know. We had Miss Perry as our vice principal, and well, our whole faculty was just so excited to get her back. And her and Mr. Murray, I just love them to death. They're just so wonderful. And at South Junior High, I have had so many friendships, and it's so hard to have them leave. Administrators come and go, and I cry weeks before they leave. All of them I've had. A lot of these guys in here, and it's just hard. They come and say, I tell them I'm not getting close to you because you'll leave. But that doesn't happen. I love them so much, and I do love what I do, and the board here, I just respect you guys, and I have just so many great friendships here. And Niels, I told him if anybody I came here with, it would be him. He is just phenomenal. He is the nicest person you will ever meet. He is so good with the kids. He is just a great guy, and I love him to death. This is so hard for me. It really is. I just want you guys to know what a great school South Junior High is. Great administrators, great faculty. It's just been just wonderful for me. And then my second love, my first love I should say, is my family. And I am so fortunate to have such a, they're just laughing, they're like, oh no, Grandma. And I'm so fortunate to have, you guys want to just stand up there and I'll just introduce you guys. This is my dad and mom. Will you just stand up, Mom, Dad? This is my dad and mom. This is the Champion family. And then my daughter Lacey is back there. And her husband Kurt, he has doctor business. He's a front I have my grandchildren. There's Brayden and Lauren and Hallibug. And then my mother-in-law, Mildred Lefevre, and my husband, Rich Lefevre. And then Logan and Kate and Lexi, and then my son. You can stand up, Cody. My son and Cody, and then his wife, and my daughter-in-law, Jody Lefevre. And Cody coaches at Weaver High School, and they're undefeated, so I'll give every shout out for them. But thank you so much, and I appreciate this. Terry, the board, and everybody. Thank you. One other thing, Bill forgot to tell you the one person that beat him in horse.
I thought we were going to talk about that.
That was me. Finally, see, all these guys, you all heard it, right?
Yes, Bill. You got a great 3-point shot.
Thanks.
I'd like to thank everyone that has come this evening to support their family and friends with these awards. We're now going to have a presentation from the Fremont High School Animal Science Program. And I can tell you in advance, this is going to be bad.
It'll be a wonderful trip.
It's the time of the national
Board Superintendent, I'll have Justin Sullivan come up first. Justin is one of our finest ag teachers in the district. He does some unbelievable things, and you'll see tonight, he has some wonderful students in his ag, as well as the FFA program at Fremont High School. He's a veteran teacher. He's really passionate about agriculture. One of the things when I took over as CTA director, I noticed about these ag guys, they'll let me know that, hey, you know what? We're passionate about what we do because we put the food on the table. So Justin tonight's going to have a demonstration basically with ultrasounding. He's ultrasound things from goats to sheep to horses to dogs, even himself. There's a thing, and I asked him about, and I'm touching his back because he figured out a way to do back fat. And I'm going to let him explain to you what that is. And I told him, well, I wonder how much back fat I have. So, Board Superintendent, I'm going to turn the time over to Justin and his students for the demonstration.
I'm not going to put on because I'm going to pass it off here in just a second. Okay, to answer his question with the back fat, it's something that we do in the livestock industry. Part of what we sell our animals, we want them to have the right amount of back fat or covering. That's part of what gives meat its flavor. And at the county fair this year, they started to ultrasound all the show animals to see how much back fat they had. And the district got the ultrasound machine for us just beforehand. And so we were out there, because hopefully in the next few years, we'll be able to do it as a chapter to check all the animals. So to try and learn how to use the ultrasound, I decided I'd check my own back fat. And I've got 3/32 of an inch. It's pretty lean. I would not be sellable grade. Part of what I do with my labs is a lot of them student ran. And so tonight with our presentation, I really turned it over to my students. I'll be here to answer some questions stuff, especially near the end. But I'm going to turn it over to Shania Thompson. She is our chapter FFA secretary. She's going to tell you a little bit about our chapter, our program, and then we're going to show a video at the farm and then bring in a sheep. So Shania.
Okay, so tonight we've been asked to give you guys a demonstration of what we do at our sheep lab with our animal science class. Animal science is just a portion of our whole agricultural program. So just a couple more classes we have. We have greenhouse, we have plant and soil science, we have ag mechanics, welding, small engines, and natural resources. So all these programs together, and to put them all together, including our amazing FFA chapter, it makes for a really, really great agricultural education program. So just something going on right now, we have our annual RJ Ringo concert coming up. It's on February 20th. If any of you guys are interested in coming, you can ask any of us, and we'd be more than happy to help you with any questions you have with that. So right now, we'd like to thank you guys for giving us the privilege to have the agricultural education farms. They're not only great to have over the summer with our show animals, but for over the school year with all of the labs we get to have with all of the hands-on experiences and all the other great learning experiences we get to have throughout those because of the farms. So last week we had a lab. We were able to have our video production class come out and take some short videos of what we do at the lab. So we're just going to show that to you guys now. Thanks, Kim.
From this class, I learned a lot. We have learned about how it works inside, not just sheep, but other animals, and it will help me with my studies as I get older and decide what I want to do with my life. That's how it works.
Well, from this, we can learn from the examples of the sheep and apply it to other animals. So we can do it not only from using it on sheep, if we have neighbors or if we own sheep ourselves, but we can use some of the stuff that we learned through their wool and how it keeps them dry and how to make sure they're feeling okay and some of the simple signs so that we can use that on other animals like dogs or horses, quick, easy checks, see if they're hydrated or something sick from them, or just how to better take care of animals.
I thought it was really cool. I've never really done anything like this before, and so I just thought it was a really good opportunity and a good learning experience for me.
It helps us learn so much around us. We learn how to count animals, learn how to surgically look at things. Totally put a sheep apart and look inside and look how its intestinal tracts look, and it's amazing. We learn so much.
Well, yeah, you get to see the entire animal and you get to learn the different parts of it. That's pretty fun. You get to work with the actual animals. not just looking at pictures, you actually get to do hands-on experience.
It's one of my favorite classes just because I'm with all my friends and we're learning so much because you know, I like to be in the profession and learn more about animals because it's amazing how they work and stuff.
Okay, this program is about, there's a lot of aspects to it. It's about teaching kids about livestock, about animals, where their food comes from. It's about helping them to become better people. As the kids move through my program, they start out, they come to the labs, their first year in animal science. And as they get more advanced, as they get into the program, I'll pull some kids. I pull about 7 to 10 kids every lab, and they come and they're my crew. When my crew runs the lab, I go around and I monitor and supervise everything that is the kids' work. I get the lab set up, I get the sheep, I get the handouts, I figure out what it is we're going to learn. They're the ones who administer, they're the ones out here, they're the ones who help the kids take the lives. They're the ones under the oversight. I'm trying to prepare them to be prepared for life after high school.
Well, at the beginning of the year when we started Mr. Sullivan's class, he got a machine from the district. We're the only school in the district that has an ultrasound machine. And so we started learning how to use it on a dope way that we brought into our classroom. And as the years went on, we just been the two that have become the ones to run the machine.
Okay, these are some of the kids on my crew. Some of you, Mitzi's been out there, the superintendent's been out to my labs. These are the guys that make this happen. So right now, Justin LaRue's going to ultrasound this shoe. She was bred on, she was put in with the ram on September 18th. She caught a little bit later. She's about 4 weeks away from delivery. All my other ewes will start lambing on the 14th. She'll probably lamb somewhere around the 21st or 27th. She had the best pictures that we could see. The lambs are the smallest. We could see some of the best pictures of the lambs inside. So as we do this, Miss Laurel, my wife, she teaches greenhouse, but she comes to labs with her ag biology class. She's really good at reading these. Between the two of us, we'll kind of try and tell you what we're looking at. So you've got to get a picture of what the sound waves are picking up on this. Okay, you can see right there the lambs kicking, the lambs moving around. If you give it a minute, we'll probably be able to see the heart. As I say, that is the heartbeat right up there at the top. Top left, it's moving, kicking a leg, moving around. No, go back to where you had that heart. Say the spine's right. You can see those dashed lines. That's the spine coming down. The heartbeat is right up there above it. You can see it opening and closing. That's where the heart is. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so there's the ribs as you're looking down. Okay, so right out here, that's the cotyledons. That's cotyledons are inside the uterus. That's where the placenta attaches. Keeps the lamb alive while it's in uterus.
One of the things we tell the kids a lot is don't expect to see a pretty picture, because this is sound waves bouncing against something and then a mathematical representation of what it sees. So oftentimes the kids, the first time they see this, they go, all I see is shadowy stuff. What am I looking at? And then over time, as we point out, this is what you're seeing, this is how it's changing. You know, at the beginning, they can see a whole animal, they can see a head and a spine and a heartbeat flickering. And then towards the end of gestation, what we're seeing now is we can see a body part at a time. We can see maybe some swallowing, we can see maybe a heartbeat, but we don't ever get to see the whole picture anymore at this point in gestation.
The first lab we had, that you could see the whole fetus in an area about this big. So it went from that to now in that same area we can just see the heart.
Justin, go a little higher on the one side.
Does she have twins, or she just?
She has twins. She has one on each side. So that's one on each side.
Charlie, how would you know that? I don't know. That's Fremont from Roy. I grew up eating herding sheep, all right? That's bad. Well,
Right. Oh, right there.
Yeah.
That's its head moving. That's its nose right there. It's lifting its head up.
So it's actually upside down. That's going to possibly be a backwards delivery.
So you can see its head right there. Now we've done so far this year, and the cool part, when I started 3 years ago at Fremont, Charlie was out. We used to have my labs with the sheep right outside the door, my door, between my room and the greenhouse. And Charlie was out there for the first lab I had, and he said, Justin, what is it that you could use? What could make these labs better? I said, Charlie, an ultrasound would make them better. I said, but he said, well, how much does that cost? He said, well, you can get a preg tone, which just beeps if it senses pregnancy. You can get one of those for about $500. He said, well, would that really do what would best serve our kids? He says, what about one that we could see a picture on? I says, hey, that's great. I don't know how much it costs, but that'd be fabulous. 3 years later, we got an ultrasound this summer. It's provided so that we have the opportunity. I used to do my sheep labs. I do one in the early spring. Jeff came to the first one where we semen evaluated rams. We collected semen, looked at it under the microscope. Then I couldn't have any labs until after I lambed in February because of weather, because there's nothing to do at that point. The ultrasound videos, we've had 4 labs. I have about a lab every month. We've watched the fetuses grow. We've looked at other things like the characteristics of wool compared to hair under a microscope. And we're just going to continue. My goal is to do about 1 lab every month. And anybody on the board, anybody's invited in the district that wants to come see. If you want to get classes involved, we have fun pulling other classes in. We've invited some of the other ag classes from Roy and Bonneville, Weaver, ag biology, other classes at Fremont have used the facility and taken advantage of labs. We can handle a lot of kids.
You've got a rib
cage right here. You can watch it breathe, and it's really active. There's its head. I think, yeah. There's a hoof right there.
One of the things that's been nice is our foods department has been happy that Justin doesn't do his lab right next to the foods lab. They're happy now that we're doing it out in the out away from the foods. Becky Sager was not happy that there's sheep outside her door. Well, it's been a great thing to have. It takes about 12 minutes to bus the kids from Fremont over to the facility. So we can do this in a class period. We call a roll, we get the kids on the bus, they go over, they do their lab, we get them back. And the bus waits, we get them back on it and do another class. It works really, really good. We can do 3 classes a day and it works really, really well.
Does anybody have any questions about what we're doing up here? Anything that goes on? All right. We appreciate, again, we appreciate the board providing the district farm, the district IDET facility for us to use, and also the ultrasound. It has been really beneficial to our program and our kids. Thank you very much.
We can just put that you in Jeff's office when we're done. The board, while they are breaking things down here, we have some discussion items that we need to read. It looks like I do not have a presenter on policy 7131. Jane Ann, we'll turn the timer over to Jane Ann.
Thank you. This is a first reading of a new policy that we're presenting before you. This is the new policy 7131 on educator evaluation. We have not had an educator evaluation policy previously, and we are in need of one to come in compliance with Utah Administrative Rule R277-533. So I present this to you for approval on the first reading.
May I ask a question?
Certainly.
Is this policy, have I missed this policy spelled out?
This policy is for the purpose of, again, for our district to have a policy on teacher evaluation. We left this policy fairly vague because the actual plan is where the detail is. And what this does is allow us to make changes to our plan as the laws change for requirements of district for teacher evaluation. Next month, for the presentation to the Board of Education, we will be presenting that teacher evaluation, or I should say educator evaluation. It's not just specific to teachers, it's for all educators. And that plan will be presented to the board next month to give you all the details for that.
So essentially, we are voting that we will have a teacher evaluation.
That's correct. Well, yes, and that this is kind of, it's almost a philosophy of educator evaluation with keeping it open to be able to have the plan, have the details as they possibly could change over time.
One of the things I think that we try to do with this policy, as Jane Ann said, is allow it to be flexible enough that if there are changes to the state law, and if you look at the third paragraph of the policy, it really connects it back to the state law, which means if there are slight changes in the state law, we're not going to have to come back and revisit the board policy. But we felt like it was very important for the board to establish kind of a statement of what we believe the purpose of teacher evaluation is all about. And it is to improve instruction. That can get lost in this melee of tying teacher performance to student achievement and all kinds of accountability. But the true purpose of teacher evaluation is to provide feedback in ways that improves instruction and therefore helps support student learning. So that's really what this is. It sort of lays out a basic philosophy of what we believe the true purpose of teacher evaluation is, but at the same time it brings us into compliance with state law. It's broad enough that if there are subtle changes made to that state law, it's covered in our policy. We're not going to have to come back and tweak it every time there's a little change to a law or an administrative rule to that law.
As the policy exists now, is it based, are equal amounts of percentile improvement part of it with the students, and then other ways to
That is a part, it is not a part of the policy, but it is a part of the plan. There are components of the plan that include student growth. It is in compliance with all of the guidelines that the state has given us, and that actually the law has given us, that need to be the components of the plan. And again, next month, Janice will make sure that you have all of that information, that it's very clear to you. Every single section, there is 70% of the plan is teacher observation, and that has to do with all of the teaching standards. There is 20% of the plan, or the evaluation, has to do with student growth. And then 10% of the plan has to do with stakeholder input. And those are the three components that are part of the guidelines given to us by the State Office of Education.
Thank you.
Right now, we have no policy on teacher evaluation. So we're dealing with a new law that is going into effect. And so this is a new policy. It's not, an old policy. But as Jane Ann said, there's a difference, I think, between the board policy on teacher evaluation and the actual instrument for evaluating teachers. That instrument, much of the guidelines are controlled or directed, if you will, by state law and administrative rule as outlined by the State Office of Education, State Board of Education. Great question.
Thank you for your questions. Others?
I just have a quick question. It says here, the new policy articulates philosophy and authorizes the superintendent, district administration, and evaluation committee to develop the procedures. Who makes up the evaluation committee?
That is another requirement of the law, is that we have an evaluation committee. The committee is comprised of district administrators, building level administrators, teachers, has the WEA represented, and parents.
Rick, so you may have answered my question, but when did this state code come into being?
How many years ago has it been? It's been 3 years ago. We have had some time to develop and implement. We're in a full pilot stage this year of being in practice, and therefore next year it is full implementation. So I think that we've had several years to go through the development stages.
We have a trial program.
Maybe just a little bit of additional information. Again, a great question. The bill was passed 3 years ago.
Thank you.
But there was a recognition that, and some of the real controversy of the bill dealt with how is this going to be weighted, especially as it relates to student growth. How much of whether it's student test scores or what are called SLOs, student learning objectives, how much of their performance is going to tie into teachers' salary or to teachers' pay increase. And I think there was a very, I was appreciative of both the legislature and the State Office of Education that recognized, rather than just sort of randomly select numbers to say, Jane Ann talked about the 70, 20, 10. Those were all kind of arrived at through research, pilot processes, because what you're trying to get at is what are the factors, what are the variables that lead to effective teaching, effective instruction. And let's not make this an evaluation process that isn't research-based. So the reason that there's a delay is because there was a time where pilot processes were in play, and those numbers that Jane Ann referenced were being really researched and calculated, if you will. So it's not that we're behind the game on this. In fact, we're probably one of the first districts to have a board policy, but it is a requirement of the new state law that the board has a policy on teacher evaluation. So again, it just kind of reinforced that the policy sort of creates that umbrella philosophy, connects it to the state law, but doesn't outline all the nuts and bolts of the instrument itself. That will be forthcoming.
So is there a timeline on when we have to have this policy in place?
We're still confusing the policy, the structure that authorizes the implementation of the practice
No, I'm not
with the
confusing
practice.
anything. I'm just wondering if there's a timeline from which we have to, we're obligated to have this.
There actually is. So, and again, I appreciate the question. Before our instrument can be approved by the state, part of that approval process is, does the board have a policy in place that is consistent with, this instrument and with the state law? And we're looking at this spring, because the policy or the requirement to evaluate teachers and those teachers' performance is tied to those buckets that Jane Ann talked about, the 70, 20, 10. That's the next school year. And so we're working to be in a position that we can have our instrument approved this spring so that we're ready to go for the fall. Our administrators are actually going through training right now so that they can be certified observers, if you will, certified evaluators of instruction. So it's all kind of ramping up to be fully implemented in the school year 16-17.
And we'll have that information so we can.
The actual instrument.
When we have a second.
Well,
yes, next month, that will be the curriculum presentation, will be all of the details to that plan, yes.
But that won't be a part and parcel of the policy.
It's not.
That's what I mean. That is not a part and parcel of the policy. The policy provides for that to be created, but does not become part and parcel of the policy itself. Thus, it's dynamic as the rules and regulations from the state change the procedures. The policy is still in place that allows us to change that without changing the policy itself.
I understand that, President. I think Jansen and my question were both relating to the fact that we're having a first reading. I don't remember hearing about it. But so that's those are where my questions are based. Is are we going to be able to see the structure of the thing before we have a second reading and actually vote?
To me, one of the things that will be very helpful is that you look at the philosophy outlined in this policy, and when you see the actual instrument, to determine, is this instrument consistent with our philosophy? Is it consistent with our policy? One of the things that I've tried to help our administrators understand is that the purpose of effective evaluation is to improve instruction, not to measure it, not to just look at it and measure instruction. You're trying to improve instruction, and you come at it with a different mindset. Now, let me share an analogy that I've used with our administrators. If you look at an Olympic athlete, every Olympic athlete deals with a coach and a judge, but those two serve very different roles. The coach is all about helping that athlete improve their performance. The judge isn't so interested in improving performance. It's just measuring performance. And we want, one of the challenges that our administrators are in, quite frankly, is that they serve both roles. At some point, they have to be the judge. But if that's their primary function, we've kind of missed the boat. And so this philosophy, this policy sort of outlines a philosophy that first and foremost, what we're about in teacher evaluation is improving instruction in ways that support student learning and help students learn more effectively. And again, to your question, yeah, you're going to see the instrument, and how it was designed, and that it's consistent with state law and so forth. But even more important, I hope that board members will look at that instrument now through these eyes and say, is it consistent with our philosophy? That we're not just here to measure teacher performance, but to improve teacher performance. I hope that
we can approve the policy without codifying the instrument, because the instrument is the living part, as long as it coincides with our policy. Now, I can see the importance of seeing that instrument and saying, Jan, do we like what we're going to get from the instrument? But the instrument is not the policy. The policy authorizes us to craft the instrument in accordance with state law. And also puts us in compliance that we authorize ourselves to do so.
Is there some place where the policy is formed so we can say, oh, this is what's our philosophical basis?
This is what's written. This is what
the policy is right there.
Right here, yes.
This
is the policy, and you can see very clearly it's not the instrument. It's just the policy that allows us to create the instrument. So the instrument can be dynamic, not requiring us to go back to reapprove minor changes to how we want to evaluate for our primary purpose of evaluating to support student improvement instruction in every classroom. So it's purposely vague. It is purposely vague, yes. It is just the structure that allows us to build the policy, build the procedures to do so.
It sets that tone, it provides that direction, that philosophy. If this is in this school district, this is what teacher evaluation, this is the purpose of it, this is what we're trying to achieve with it. And our instrument should be consistent with that. And absolutely the board will see that instrument. That instrument's been under works for two years probably. There's been an awful lot of work going into that instrument, but absolutely, Rick, you'll see that instrument.
Does that help?
I understood it before you gave us all the explanation. I just wondered if we were ever going to, somebody's ever going to say to us, this is coming about, rather than just seeing a first reading right here.
Well, we always get a policy on a first reading. And that's what the difference between the first and second reading is. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve? Oh, I'm sorry, Doug, go ahead.
One last question. With this new state law, I assume the state is requiring a reporting process. Is that going to be annual, or they provide the?
They have an annual.
They're going to receive. How detailed is that going to be?
We have an annual report that we have to send in certain components. They ask how we're measuring certain things. They ask us how we're doing trainings. They ask lots of different things, different questions every year. So far it's kind of been development questions, but now at this point in time they're asking some very specific questions on how have you done this and how have you done this and show us this part of your plan. So we're to the point where for an extended period of time so much kept changing. That's probably why we have not brought it before the board in the past, because so much changed over those 3 years of time. The state was developing requirements, and we as a committee looked at different things and have taken each section of that very seriously and have wanted to make sure that it is done, I'll call it the Weber way, so that we have our plan the way that Weber School District would like it, and for the Board of Education to then approve it once it's been pretty complete.
And maybe just one other thing, Rick, to your question. I understand your question. And as Jane Ann mentioned, this has been such a fluid process. When the bill was first passed 3 years ago, the first year of this implementation was actually supposed to be this year. And then a year later, it got pushed off. There's been a lot of fluid moving parts, not only from the legislature, but also from the State Office of Education, that give and take. And I think it's because, honestly, people have wanted to try to get it right. Let's get it right. I think the law came into effect in a pretty, sort of quick way. And then everybody sort of stepped back and said, okay, the law passed, let's make sure that we get it right. And so there have been an awful lot of moving parts, even legislation that pushed it from this year to next year, recognizing that implementing too early would tip over the system, quite frankly. Because it is critical. But it's a great question, and I hope that we haven't blindsided, the board on bringing it for a first reading. Okay.
Is there I guess the state requires a reporting process. Is there penalties attached with this law for those districts that are delinquent or don't provide the report?
Well, the challenge is that the law right now the thing must be implemented next school year. Before it can be implemented, your instrument has to be approved, your policy has to be, not that our policy has to be approved, nobody has to oversee the board, but part of the approval process is that the policy has been established. There is a financial component attached to teacher salaries if they don't get a score at a certain level. So certainly if we didn't have the thing in place by next school year, we would be in a bad situation. You hesitate saying bad in tonight's board meeting.
With all the openness of the policy, if it gets to a second reading and the report goes to the state, is there a chance the suggestion would be made on my end that we get a briefing of that prior to that, just so we can see it? Because it can't sound like it's open enough that we can, if we feel like we need to make a change on that, we can do that. That's just kind of easy. I mean,
I still think we're confusing the policy with the instrument.
And that's okay.
What we as a board should always have purview of our instruments, of the tools that are being used. And if we don't feel that they're adequate, that's what we're here for. But the policy just authorizes the creation of the instrument and the philosophy under which the instrument is created. The instrument will be a totally separate item.
And President Richardson, if you would prefer, we could put off the second reading until April and do the presentation in March and then do the second reading in April. Whatever the board would like.
Comfortable with that, that's fine.
When do we have a plan to bring the instrument to the board in a curriculum presentation?
It's next month, in March.
And that's in March.
Yes.
And so I think that's something that we can discuss whether or not you want a month after the presentation. So that'll be the curriculum presentation in March. And there's no problem delaying a second reading until April after you've had a chance to see the instrument. And again, make sure that the instrument is consistent with the philosophy of the policy.
With those thoughts in mind, I'm sorry, go ahead.
When you mentioned the word bad, teenage language, and reflection, bad, he's bad.
Depends on whether they're good or a sheep. With the discussion at hand, do I have a motion to approve policy 7130 on a first reading with, 31, excuse me, with the caveat that the second reading will be delayed until after the instrument that it authorizes is presented to the board? So, such a motion? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? No, I think it's good practice. There are a lot of questions here, and I think we need to have a good feeling about it. So I've got a motion and a second discussion.
Well, I hesitate to have that move back if that jeopardizes having it in place by the springtime, because there's been so much work put into it already.
I think that will give us time for our report that will be due. I believe that that will still meet our deadlines.
I sense a misunderstanding, maybe the president or question.
I don't think it sets us back at all. No, and I don't think it moves it back, but I do think it would be helpful for the board because, you know, you could have questions come to you from teachers, for example. And you just want to be crystal clear on where our board is, where our district is, what the requirements from the state are. It wouldn't push us back at all.
And it won't push us back. I still have a motion standing and seconded with the delay, 1 month delay, and it will not affect our, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Robert, the property lease resolution.
Okay, board, you'll recall that on December 21st, we closed on the Hodson property, which is between our Weaver Innovation Center and our Two Rivers High School. And that property was purchased at $1.6 million. And we paid for it, and it is in the bank. It is paid. But with uncertainty in some of our legislative estimates and estimates on funding that are coming up with the state legislature, we'd like you to provide as an option a chance to engage in a real property lease, and the details of that will be provided next month and approval. What you're doing tonight is you're just declaring, because we have a 60-day window from the time of purchase, you're declaring an intent to reimburse yourself with tax-free financing. And so that's all that is in place this month is that intent, that resolution intent, so that we can put together all the details, have them presented to you next month, and if the board chooses, they can move ahead or not. And also by next March, the March 2nd board meeting, we'll have a much clearer picture on other financing sources. We've engaged in these types of leases twice before, so this is not new. And both times we've had the help of Zions Public Financing, and they're helping us and guiding us also. We have with us Bruce Williams. Bruce, most of us know Bruce. He is with Zions Public Financing, and he's been very helpful on this whole enterprise. And I would propose that you approve this resolution.
Board, any initial discussion on the resolution? Do I have a motion to approve? Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay, we now have need of closed session in accordance with Utah Code 52-4-204 and 205. This meeting is a strategy session to discuss the character, personal confidence, or physical or mental health of an individual. Do I have a roll count motion to adjourn and move into closed session?
Okay, just say aye or nay. Mitzi Kawaguchi, Janice Christensen, Rick Favero, Doug Hurst, Dean Oborn, John Ritchie, and Brent Richardson.
Aye.
Very good, it's unanimous.
So we will reconvene in closed session. We thank everyone for being here this evening.